Wow. Google has just made the biggest single change to the way we all search in more than 20 odd years. So, the old days, obviously, you type in a sentence and there's a heap of results and you choose one, whether it's an ad or an organic listing. But now you're going to get this, which is an AI generated result. Yep. At the very top, after you type in something, the top area will be an AI generated result. So if your business relies on leads from your website, this could change everything. Because if you don't come up in the AI result, the chances of you getting a lead obviously reduce. Some of my clients have been seeing a decline in traffic over the last 12 months, and it's happening everywhere, absolutely everywhere. TripAdvisor just announced on one of their recent earning calls they incurred costs for restructuring due to AI, but they lost over $13 million. They've lost hundreds of thousands of visitors to their website in the last 12 months because people that used to search for travel suggestions, etc., and would go to TripAdvisor, now are getting an answer from AI. So, what the hell does TripAdvisor have to do with your business? Well, the principle's the same in nearly every single industry. So, for example, here I've typed in, how can I design my bathroom? So, straight away, I'm getting an AI answer. I'm getting some other suggestions. I can continue for getting more information. And what you see here is if the general query is answered, I don't have to go to a website. Now, if I do want more information, maybe I'll click on one of these links. And that's potentially what might happen. But for a lot of the questions people are asking, the information that's here is probably going to be enough. And so that's why people may not go to a website anymore, if it's something really, really simple. And so now all of a sudden, this whole premise of high quality information, a really unique perspective, something that really explains something in depth on your website becomes even more important than ever before. On top of that, AI is giving results based on businesses it believes are, authoritative in that industry or niche, or there have been experts that have been quoted by, I don't know, news websites or lots of other websites, etc., etc. So there's an element of popularity contest, an element of perceived credibility, and an element of how good is the content on your website. And these three things combined will make a judgment as to whether or not you show up in these results. Further to that, even if you used 4 or 5 different AI tools and asked them the same question, they'll all give you different answers. And on top of that, if you used the same tools the next day with the same question, you'll get a different answer. It's not one way every time. And so all of a sudden, in terms of how do you get a website found on search, or how do you get it found on AI, I know because I'm in the bubble of all the marketing people, everybody's throwing up these theories, but nobody really knows because everything has changed so fast in the last 12 months. And Google's just made this announcement. The core update was released in May. And so everybody's now trying to figure out what to do and how. An example from one of my clients that I had a look at, this is looking at from January 2025. You can see here massive growth in all the AI generated answers, and it continues. Even the other day, he was surprised because the lead forms that he gets obviously says to him the source of the lead, and he's seeing that ChatGPT is coming up quite a lot. So can it generate leads? Yes. And how do I know it? Well, here in this report, this is showing that there's 300 odd people, and out of those 300, there's about 97 have taken some sort of action on the website. So whether that's filled in a form, clicked one of the buttons to call, etc., etc. So it's 1 in 3, which is pretty strong. So what it means is the person that was looking for something very specific, the information that was provided from this website meant that they clicked through and they wanted to get more info, and they obviously inquired because they believed the info was high quality. Now, this website's got a couple hundred pages of content. It's stuff that we wrote a long time ago, but it proves the point about quality over quantity, or a site that has a lot of depth versus one that just has basic service pages. So if you still don't believe me, Google's also changing the way it gives data. So the first step that they're taking is they're going to show what impressions came out of generative AI. So in other words, how many times did you show up somewhere on a search for AI. It's not showing clicks yet. And this is the biggest gap right now. People want to know how many clicks are being generated from that so they understand how it's working and why. So maybe that's to come, maybe it'll never come, I don't know. This is one of the very new things that was just announced the other day. They've just released a new guide on how to optimize your website for AI. And at the end of the day, it just talks about really good quality, in-depth information, not superfluous stuff, not generic stuff that, maybe I could write with my own knowledge and my own assumptions. Actually in-depth, qualitative stuff, meaning the information's got to come from someone that's an expert on the topic. So you as the business owner, one of your team because they're an expert in a particular skill, and that information has to be presented in a way that is helpful to humans that are looking for information on that topic. Sounds basic, right? It's the same shit that's been spoken about the last 5-6 years. But now all of a sudden it becomes even more important because these AI tools are looking for this stuff even in more depth than they ever would before. And so this combination of shifting how people search using these new boxes, even to the point where you can type in something more. And I'm doing this on a desktop, but this is the same on a mobile phone. In fact, on a mobile phone, it's actually more native. And here, you can see straight away, it's taking people away from a typical search where you'd be looking at obviously lots of blue links, going to a website, trying to look at what's in that website. All of a sudden, AI is giving you the information. Now here, in this instance, I've asked, how to do a black bathroom. So it's a step further. It's gone into AI mode. It's pulling images from God knows where, Martha Stewart website, some backsplash website, Pinterest. So it's giving me ideas, obviously, and it's giving me a little bit of information. I still probably need to go and find someone to build the bathroom. So this obviously helps in the research phase for someone to understand what they're looking for. But if your website had this whole, whole section or whole detail about all how to do a black bathroom, for argument's sake, you'll have a better chance of getting found versus people that don't. And yes, it's niche, and yes, it's not obviously, it's not common to do a black bathroom. But this is an example of how people use natural language and long sentences rather than just a single phrase or a single word to look for something. And this is what will start changing. So people might type in, how to make my bathroom feel bigger. Whoops. Whoa. They could type something like this, and I've misspelt it, but it knows what I'm talking about. And it continues. They can learn about this stuff. There is links to pages that are talking about, and here's a good example. That's my client. So, one of the case studies, and you saw I did these live, so I haven't done it before, and so that's a surprise for me. But one of the articles or one of the pieces that we wrote a long time ago was about how to make your bathroom bigger by moving a wall. And on it goes. And so all of a sudden, this changes the way people get information. It changes the way people will navigate on either their phone or the desktop. There will be some data to show whether people are coming from AI. But what it means is the sources of traffic that you relied on before will change. And yes, ads are coming to AI. ChatGPT are already trialing ads that appear in the bottom of a search screen. No doubt, once Google roll this out completely in terms of the search bar and the way it works, there'll be paid and sponsored links that'll appear. And so from a business's point of view, all the basics still are important. What makes you different? Why are you unique? Can you prove what you deliver? Can you give people confidence you can do what you say you can do instead of just having a list of sentences that promise stuff? Do you have heaps of reviews? Do you have profiles that show that you're qualified to do whatever it is you do? There's a whole list of stuff that would be needed to prove expertise and reliability. Your existing referral base and your email database are probably going to be the two most valuable things in the next 12 to 18 months as all these things change. Or if you've got a budget to run ads and have got the ability to obviously reach people that way. So all these things are changing super fast. I wanted to do this video because it's been a crazy 6 months watching all this stuff in real time happen. And even me, I've got to learn how to do it for my own website, and I've got to figure out how to help my own clients with, making best use of what all these changes are creating.